What if a detective didn't solve the murder because she committed it? What if the killer wasn't a stranger, but a badge-carrying officer, trusted to protect lives? This is the story of Stephanie Lazarus.
911, what's your emergency?
Welcome to Veiled Crimes.
Los Angeles, 1986. A young and well-respected nurse was found brutally murdered in her own home. Her body lay on the living room floor. She had been beaten, bitten, and shot 3 times in the chest with a .38 caliber revolver. The crime scene was chaotic. Drawers were open, the TV pulled from the wall, glass shattered across the floor. Police believed it was a home invasion gone wrong. But something felt off. Sherri's family insisted this wasn't a robbery. It was personal, too personal. And they had a suspect, but nobody listened. Sherri's husband, John Rutan, had once dated Stephanie Lazarus, but Stephanie hadn't moved on. After John married Sherri, Stephanie began appearing uninvited at his office, at his home, even confronting Sherri in person. She wrote letters, left emotional voicemails, and clung to a past that was no longer hers. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't harmless. It was escalating obsession. And when Sherri was murdered, Stephanie wasn't even questioned. Her name didn't appear in the police report, not once. Why? Because she wasn't a stranger. She was a sister in uniform, one of their own. Pathological jealousy isn't just a feeling, it's a pattern, one that escalates. Studies show that in the US alone, more than 1,800 people a year are murdered by a current or former romantic partner. Globally, women are the victims in over 70% of jealousy-fueled murders. Stephanie wasn't just jealous, she was obsessed. Her diary, discovered years later, revealed rants about losing everything, questioning how she could let Sherri win. She didn't lose John to fate. She believed he was stolen, and so she plotted to steal back her life. On the morning of February 24th, 1986, Sherri called her mother and told her she felt uneasy staying home alone. Later that afternoon, she was ambushed in her living room. Police believe Stephanie had broken in while Sherri was upstairs, possibly under the guise of burglary. When Sherri came down, a violent struggle began. Stephanie beat her with a blunt object, likely the same one used to smash the front door glass. Then, in a terrifying escalation, she bit Sherri on the arm, leaving a visible bite mark. Finally, she shot her 3 times in the chest at close range. Afterward, Stephanie staged the scene, pulling down the TV, scattering items, flipping over furniture. She wanted it to look like a robbery, one gone wrong. But nothing was stolen, not even Sherri's jewelry. Then she disappeared and went back to work in uniform the next day. Stephanie used every advantage of being a police officer to her benefit. She likely knew how to avoid surveillance, what details to manipulate, and how to stage a scene. More importantly, her fellow officers simply couldn't believe that one of their own could be a killer. The bite mark, in which could have identified her, was swabbed and sealed into evidence, but never processed, and the case was shelved for decades. She got promoted, she married, she adopted a child. She even worked on art theft cases, becoming a trusted figure in the department. No one suspected her, but DNA doesn't forget. In 2009, cold case detectives re-examined Sherri's file. They were stunned that no one had followed up on Stephanie Lazarus. The bite mark evidence was finally tested and revealed a partial female DNA profile. Stephanie became their top suspect. But how do you arrest a fellow cop? The LAPD organized a ruse. They invited her to a routine interrogation about an unrelated case. She showed up armed, as always. Officers quietly took her weapon and left the room. The interrogation was secretly recorded. She lied, then hesitated, then crumbled. She said,
I mean, I may have met her, but I don't remember.
within hours, Stephanie Lazarus was arrested for the murder of Sherri Rasmussen. In 2012, after a dramatic trial, Stephanie Lazarus was found guilty and sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. She never confessed, never showed remorse, but the evidence and the silence of 23 years finally spoke. Sherri's family called it the longest, coldest betrayal they'd ever seen. When the killer wears a badge, who polices the police? Stephanie Lazarus proves that even those sworn to serve can be driven by the darkest of human emotions. Jealousy kills. She was once a rising star, a young woman in uniform, praised for her discipline and dedication. To many, Stephanie Lazarus was the embodiment of law and order, a woman navigating a male-dominated police force with confidence. But beneath the surface, something darker was growing. Her relationship with John Rutten wasn't just a college romance, it became a fixation. When he moved on, when he fell in love with Sherri Rasmussen, Stephanie didn't. For her, love wasn't something to let go of. It was something to win, at any cost. Psychologists might call it narcissistic injury, the unbearable wound to one's ego when rejected. For someone like Stephanie, rejection wasn't just painful, it was unacceptable. In her mind, she deserved John. And if she couldn't have him, no one else should either. After the murder, she went back to work, back to her badge, back to the very system that should have exposed her. And she thrived there. Promotions, respect, even investigating art thefts with a straight face, while hiding a truth more valuable than any painting. But guilt doesn't vanish. It seeps, it lingers, it echoes. Some crimes hide in shadows, others wear a badge. This was one of them. You've just watched another case uncovered by Veiled Crimes. Don't forget to subscribe for the truths that refuse to stay buried